affairs. We're going to talk about elections in Kenya. So generally, elections, this is the formal and organized choice by a vote for a person for a certain position. So elections in Kenya, they take place within the framework of a multi-party democracy and a presidential seat. So I hope that by the end of this session, you're going to grasp something about the elections in Kenya, the multi-party scene, and also the affairs concerning the elections. So thank you so much. I give the mantle to the moderator.
Before we even start, we'll be giving you some short history or some background information about the journey or the transformation of the electoral bodies from LegCo all the way to right where we are right now. And Dorcas will be explaining about the LegCo.
Okay, the first elections in Kenya were held in 1920. That was in the LegCo. And the LegCo means the Legislative Council. During this time, we had 11 Europeans, and we had 3 seats in the Legislative Council, which belongs to the Indians and the Arabs. And in 1924, when we had the second elections, we had an increment of numbers of the Indians and Arabs in the Legislative Council, whereby we had 5 seats which belongs to the Indians, and we had 1 seat that belonged to the Arabs, and we also had 1 appointed seat that belongs to the African race. And this brought about the first African to be nominated in the Legislative Council of Eliud Matthew. So after that, before the elections were held in 1927, now the third elections, before they were held, we had a complaint whereby the Indians were objecting the elections in the Legislative Council, where they wanted an equal representation with the Europeans. They wanted them to be represented equally, the same way the Europeans were being represented in the Legislative Council. And this was not looked into. So this actually brought about the boycott of the Indians from the Legislative Council, whereby they were not present in the Legislative Council. But when we had now the third elections in the Legislative Council, that is in 1927, we had now 1 Indian who decided to stand out and represented the Indians during that time. So elections continued in that system, and then after some years, we now came to the first election, which was done under universal suffrage. That was in 1961, whereby we had the 65 seats in the Legislative Council, and 20 seats of these 65 seats actually belong to the Europeans, and the rest of the seats belongs to the other races. And after that was done, it now brought the introduction of KANU, which happened to be the largest party that
Speaking of KANU, can you give us a small background of KANU?
Even before I go there, during the period of 1954, we get to realize that the colonial government started to actively promote regional tribal-based political parties led by leaders who are friendly to the colonial government. The colonial government at that time decided to choose to promote regional-based leaders who were sure that were going to help them in their agenda. So in this connection, you will find that the colonial government appointed leaders like Ronald Gala, who represented the Coast region. We have Daniel Moi, who was appointed to represent the Rift Valley. We have Masinde Muliro, who was appointed to represent the Western Wing, that is the Western region. And then we have Agwings Kodek, who was appointed to represent Nairobi, while Oginga Odinga, who became the Nyanza LegCo member. And then you also have Jeremiah James Nyaga, who was appointed to represent Central Kenya. So basically, these members who were chosen in all those regions were the ones who were representing the issues. And in the spirit of regional representation, we see that in 1944, CAU was formed, which was the Kenya African Union, and it was a political organization that was formed to articulate the Kenyan grievances against the British colonial administration. And we find that this Kenya African Union, it was led by a guy or a man called Jomo Kenyatta, and he started leading this party in the year 1947. And the problems started there. And in 1947 we find that it was alleged that Jomo Kenyatta was involved in the Mau Mau movement, and which led to his arrest. And when he was arrested, later on in 1948, we see that political parties were banned government. And later on we see that in 1960, the ban was lifted and Jomo Kenyatta was released in 1961. And after his release, we see that James Gishuru came together with Tom Mboya and Oginga Odinga, and they now merged and formed a stronger party, which was by the name Kenya African National Union. This was a party that was formed after CAU was banned by the name KANU. And in this KANU, we see that James Gishuru was the chairman, and then Oginga Odinga was the vice chairman, and Tom Mboya became the first secretary. And after KANU was formed, we realized that later on other members of the party decided to opt out and form another party. And my sister here is going to help to give us a heads up about that section.
About the other parties, there's a party called KPU, which meant Kenya People's Union, which was formed by Oginga Odinga and Hilda Kagea. They formed this party in 1966, which what it won in the elections, by elections, which were made in the same year, and they won the majority votes. But on the other hand, KANU won the seats, 60% of the seats. So they then had to continue the same spirit when in 1969 the party was banned. And when we see the KPU, those people abolished this party. On the other hand, KANU won the majority seats, which was 60%. And we can see at the end of the same year, the Senate was banned and it merged with the House of Representatives to form the National Assembly. The KPU was subsequently banned, and then Kenya became one-party state.
That is why you get to hear that Oginga Odinga is the father of partism, but he was shut down in 1969, as we've been told by Mishi. But in 1991, that is when there was an introduction of the multi-partism. But Hassan will tackle that.
In 1991, multi-party system was introduced to the Republic of Kenya. So what is multi-party system? This is a process where political parties run for national election in order to gain government control for their affairs of amending the process to use that bureau. So in 1991 was introduced the multi-party system, whereby during the late system of that President of Moi and Republic of Kenya, whereby in 2002 there was an election between KANU and NAC. KANU, the candidate was presidential candidate was Uhuru Kenyatta, and NAC was Mwai Kibaki. So NAC has won it. That's the first time in Kanu was defeated after 26 years of control of the government. So, and then there's referendum was done at that time for new constitution for the Republic of Kenya. So what are the benefits of a multi-party system? This one enables to prevent one single party controlling the government. Also, it helps proper utilization of the resources that's meant for developing the future the country. So in 2010, another referendum was done for the constitutions of Kenya, whereby new system was introduced. From henceforth, my friend will begin how the procedure goes on.
I'm going to take you through the current electoral system in Kenya. 350 members are involved in the seats. So out of the 350, 290 members of the parliament are elected by the single member parties, while 47 are the seats that are taken by the women representatives. 13 seats remaining, 12 are then nominated by the political parties, considering the number of seats that they have acquired in the parliament. The one slot that is remaining is for the speaker. I'm also going to talk about the Senate, which for 68 members. 47 of them are the elected members in the respective constituencies that they represent. So 1 seats that are appointed, and the 12 include 2 women depending on the parliament seats, 2 members that represent the disabled groups, and one slot for the speaker, out the 2 youth representatives that are left. Thank you very much. I would like to hand you back to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. So that was the discussion. And now I would like to ask Ike. I know we had an off-camera discussion.
Yes.
About Baba, the Hustler Nation. I think Ruto is the most loyal person, being behind Uhuru during the 2002 election when he lost, being behind Baba in 2007, being behind Uhuru in 2013, 2017, and right now, he's still, even though anasukuma, but I'm still stick na Jubilee. What do you think?
For me, first of all, I think what Ruto is doing, what we call reversed psychology. This guy is very smart, and he hasn't really convinced me about his wheelbarrow philosophy, because you cannot come and tell people that what he's trying to do is to put a class between the wealthy and the poor, and telling people that you small business, if you ride a wheelbarrow, one day you will become a multi-millionaire somewhere. And that is not a philosophy that can boost our economy right now.
Very true.
That is not the philosophy that we want right now. Because if you see somebody like Baba, and that's why I told you, I respect this guy so much for his father, because if you realize, since the colonial period, Oginga Odinga was the person supposed to be the first prime minister, and thereafter our first president, because the colonial master had given Oginga Odinga the opportunity to be the first prime minister. But what did he do? He decided to fight for his brother, and that is Jomo Kenyatta, and he told the colonial people that, first of all, we want you to release Jomo Kenyatta. And when Jomo Kenyatta was released, and we see that is how he went to become the first prime minister, and thereafter the first president. And in 2002, we see the same thing happening to Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga had an opportunity to become the first president in 2002. Because if you remember very well, this is the time that we had the first attempted referendum in our country. And the moment Baba said no, and that was the time of Chungwa Nandizi. I'm trying to make you people understand.
We are talking about the current things.
Yes,
okay?
I want you to
We are talking
understand.
about hope.
No, I want you to
change.
understand. I want you to understand that this is a person
I think
who...
Ruto is giving people hope.
No, this is a
And people
person...
are not supposed to crucify him. We have heard all the things. We have been through all that.
Believe you
We
me,
have
believe
seen-
you
we
me,
have
believe
seen
you
it
me,
time and again.
believe you me, this person is playing with our mind.
No, this
At the
person is
moment,
giving Kenyan
How
hope.
sure are you? How sure are you?
How sure are you?
Playing,
Playing
give us
with
details.
He's giving my hope.
Let's hold our horses. So first of all, IQ just said that that's philosophy is not what how ielewe. But I think this baba alikuwa anajulikana kwa vitendo zake. That was metaphor.
Metaphors? Yeah.
Metaphor.
Exactly. That is the same thing that Ruto is using. Wheelbarrow, orange. What did orange ilikuwa ina represent nini? In the ODM
Raila has been there. He has been there all through. We've
but
not
we
seen
should,
change.
we should,
we have,
we
no,
should
we
call a
haven't-
spade and just give him the credit. This guy has really helped
We-
to transform
We
our
are
country.
giving him credit. I mean,
Yes,
he
we
has
should.
done things.
Because what we are
that
seeing,
night,
what we are
by the
seeing
time-
right now, what we are seeing right now in Ruto is frustration. The thirst that
That was before the
In the-
handshake. Remember, that was
because
before
that
the
is really what he wants
No,
right
we don't
now.
even know. We
He
don't
wants
see him.
power.
I
We
can
don't
He
agree.
see
wants
him.
power by all means.
According to my opinion,
By all means, a person who can go with 5 gunias of money that he has stolen from our,
can't-
Right.
and then
He
take it to
supported
the church.
government. He supported the
Why
government. That
you-
was
you can't
before the
account.
handshake. He was
Yes.
an opposition leader. But after the handshake, we just found that things were just moving on.
Because
and
he
there
is
was no one
hurt.
who was
We didn't
He's
even
hurt.
see him in the
He's
media.
hurt
We didn't
because
even see him
he's
anywhere.
hurt
Of
because
course,
he was
he
even
sees
silent
Raila
on
as a
Kenyans.
threat.
He betrayed
Because,
the Kenyan people.
because what he did, these two people decided to beat all odds. They came together. This is something that has never happened in the entire world. A leader, president coming together,
coming
and
together for selfish
shaking
interest.
hand.
For
No,
selfish
for the
Opposition
interest.
leader.
We should appreciate the fact that
What is
from
the
the
role
day
of an
these
opposition
guys came
leader?
together,
What-
we have had peace
Ike,
in our
let me
country.
ask you something.
Our
Ike.
GDP
But
rose.
the services,
okay.
the services are not.
What
well.
is what is the role of an opposition leader? Are you supposed to come hand in hand with the government? You're supposed to stand with the people,
Watch
not come together.
You people
And
should
push the government
now
forward.
let me
You need
let
to
me
force the
let me
government to look the other way. The
let
way
me
where the
let me make
citizens
you
know
understand.
how
You
to
know,
make
back then, Raila, the only platform that Raila or the opposition people had to articulate their issues were in the media because they didn't have the direct
He was our
link.
voice.
Let me make you understand. He didn't have the direct link with the president. But when he shook hands, that link, that barrier was blocked. So if he sees any problem or any issue with the government, he goes directly to him, not
there a
necessarily,
change?
not
Okay.
Is there a
necessarily
change?
bringing that conflict, because what he was doing back then was just to show that the government is not working.
You are talking
Yes,
about the
but
youth.
right
Is there
now,
a change?
but right now
Is there
he's
a
able
change
to
right
give
now?
him a phone call and tell him this and this and this and this.
Is
He
there
was
a
fighting
change?
for the rights of
Is
nurses.
there a change?
We are
Who
not-
told
we
the
are not
president
help-
to
we
make
do
sure
not
that those
want
people
a
are being
personal
given
relationship.
rights?
You're talking about
Self-interest,
nurses.
The
that's what I
Kenyans
call
don't
it.
want a
That's
personal
No, it's-
relationship
it's
with
not-
leaders. They want people who can work. And
You
Ruto
know,
can
no,
work.
it's not a must.
yeah.
It's not a must for him to show you publicly that he's working, because truthfully, this guy is working.
How
This
do
guy
you
is
know?
We are
working.
Kenyans,
How do
Bana.
we
We want
see?
to
We can
see
see
the
the
right
right
is
is
working.
working.
We want to see
You
the
want to do
right
things
change.
under the carpet and they
how
can't
we
even
are.
see.
Just to
You can't bring.
I've
vote-
never seen,
we want
I've
to
never
see how
seen a
we-
selfless guy
we
like
work.
that person.
We
I
want
have
to
never.
see
This is a person who had 2 opportunities to be a president,
So we had
but
the-
he
The
shut it
election.
away.
No, he did not shut it.
there is
He
no-
failed the
there-
election.
So let's
failed.
we had your view.
No.
Let's
Terribly.
listen our view.
And the moment
We had your
he
view.
said, Kibaki
we
Tosha,
need change.
Kibaki became the president.
We need change.
Let me tell you.
Don't
But
need
he didn't try.
alliances.
He didn't try.
According to me,
But he had an opportunity
That
because
man-
he was.
the point they are going to tell us, we are just brainwashing about the articles of Raila.
Yeah.
But in my view, when you see the procedure from 2007, he said my election, my vote has been
Rigged.
rigged, and the same time 2013, 2017. So let me tell you, a matured, intelligent man cannot repeat what he has saw in the future.
Yes.
But
At
you
the same
should-
time, he has no faith to won the presidential. Let me tell you, no faith and destiny to won. I could have told him to relax all of the mambo ya siasa because he has seen many
His time
things.
is over.
So
The time
just
is
relax
up.
him.
Let new people come to the government and show us what we are doing. We don't want people who are hiding. behind curtains and everything.
Yeah.
We want people who
Yes,
can show us.
So who is your best candidate?
Ruto.
A person
Hustler Nation.
who
A person who what?
no, let me tell you.
No,
you
no,
want
no, no.
you want you want
Ruto,
you
wacha
want
Ruto apewe
Ruto,
nafasi
a
atuonyeshe
person
anafanya
who
nini.
was told to be the president for one day. That time when Uhuru Kenyatta went for a tour outside,
He wasn't
and
told it
Ruto,
was his right to
no,
step
no,
up
no, he
as the
became,
vice president.
if he became an acting president for only 24 hours, and in those 24 hours, he was able to,
Propaganda.
no, he
Account
was
for it.
able to
Account for it.
rig
Account for it.
Account.
tenders
Give us
worth billions. The money that he has right now, he acquired it within 24 hours. Is that the kind of leader we want?
No, Ruto has been in the light for a very long time.
So
if
my
he has
camera
money, he has
person-
worked for it all.
I think he's playing with our mind.
No, this person is even Kenyan.
How sure are you? How sure are you?
How sure are you?
Give us details. Let's give us details.
Okay, let's move on. So first of all, I can just say that that's philosophy, how we live. But I think this Baba alikuwa anajulikana kwa vitendo vingi zake. That was metaphor, metaphor. Exactly. That is the same thing that Ruto is using.
Frustration. Let me tell you that.
That was before the handshake. Remember, that was
Because
before
that
the
is
handshake.
really what he wants.
After the handshake,
He
that
wants
means
power.
I
He
think
wants power. By all means.
according to my
By
opinion,
all means. A person who can go with 5 gunias of money that he has stolen from our
this guy
and then
he supported
the
the
church.
government. He supported the government. That was before the handshake. He was an opposition leader. But after the handshake, you just found that things were just moving on and there
Because
was
he
no
is
one who was
We didn't
objecting
even
to
see
that.
him in the
He's
media.
hurt
We didn't
because
even see him in the
he's
media.
hurt
Of
because
course.
He
he
was
sees
very silent.
Raila
He was
as a
silent.
threat.